Well, it seems there may have been a breakthrough in one of the 3 deadly tavern shootings over the weekend. 2 suspects have been arrested in connection with the shooting in Sweetwaters, just outside Pietermaritzburg. Now, 15 people died in Soweto, 4 in Sweetwaters and 2 in Katlehong in just one weekend, all at taverns. The motive behind the shootings is still unclear. Our reporters, Mangoba Mtkunu and Moloko Moloto, have been on the ground in KwaZulu-Natal and here in Gauteng, and they're joining us now live. Moloko, I'm going to start with you in Soweto this evening. We know that the police minister was there. We also know that this evening the tactical response unit, the Amabarete, are due to move in. What can you tell us about this unit and how the people of Nomzamo in Soweto are doing tonight?
Well, Sally, when the Minister of Police, Bekitele, arrived here, there was a hive of activity. He arrived here with the police's top brass, also his deputy, Castle Matale, the mayor of Johannesburg as well. And of course, they arrived under heavy security. I also spotted among their security detail the Presidential Protection Services. So you could understand that they were coming into an area which they consider unsafe. But they have since left now, Sally. It's been 3, if not 4 hours after they have left. This small section called Nomzamo in Orlando, Soweto is now quiet. It's more like life is back to normal. Of course, it's just been a few days since the killing of those 15 people at a tavern here inside a garage, Sally. And the people here, you can tell they are still terrified. We did try to speak to the family members. We spoke, for instance, to a grieving mother who is the mother of a 19-year-old Simtembile Gamede, who died here in the hail of bullets on that fateful night. And it was just so difficult for her to contain herself. The emotions were overtaking her, along with the father as well, because the father was telling us that the youngster who had dropped out of grade 10 had intended, on the day he died, actually he had told them that he intends to go back to school because he was worried about his future. But Sally, another thing that I can tell you is that in one street in this small section, there's a total of 5 people who died. Among the 5, we have 2 siblings, the brothers from Kwa Mzimkulu in KwaZulu-Natal. They died. One died at the scene, and the other one, we are told, died in hospital. And their parents are distraught, Sally. They were not willing to speak. But of course, the relative spoke to us. Her name is Phumzile Sosibo. She was just telling us that the 2 siblings were very close with their father. It was as if the 3 of them were siblings or friends. But Linge, my colleague, is showing the area where the shooting actually took off on that night. But let's listen to Phumzile Sosibo as she was talking to us a little bit earlier.
Isiphatha kabuhlungu indaba kamzala. Isiphatha kabuhlungu benomalume bekungathi abafowabo noLiyanda bebehlala behamba bobayi3 bemvakatshela utata wabo behlele behamba nabo befriendly kubaba wabo bonke kuzutsho ukuthi ubaba wabo bongathi ubhuti wabo bengathi nje abantwana bomuntu kanti ubaba wabo bemthanda kakhulu umalume oSithembiso benoLiyanda, and uLiyanda ubesithanda thina izihlobo zakhe. Uthi noba ngabe umbonanga uhlangana naye endleleni uLiyanda uzokubulisa athi sabona Mazulu noSithembiso ngobunjalo. Bebe abantwana bebe right kakhulu.
Well, Sally, that is Phumzile Sosibo, who really, in a nutshell, was just telling us about the kind of relationship that the brothers, the Mjoli brothers, had with their father. Today they are gone. Their father was telling us off the camera that he only had, together with his wife, they only had 2 boys. Today they are gone. They are left with 2 girls. And obviously, as I said, they are distraught. Sally?
And in total, 15 people dead in that Soweto tavern in Nomzamo. Now, it's very interesting. The police minister today, when he visited, said they are seeking 5 potential suspects from Nongoma in KwaZulu-Natal. Did he give any explanation as to why they believe that the shooters may hail from KwaZulu-Natal?
Well, Sally, the minister was a bit cagey. Really, he was not willing to give much details. He even said that he believes that some of the people, perhaps, who could have worked with those criminals or the gunmen were possibly at that local imbizo, and for that, he would rather not give much details, except to say that he said, look, we have been able to determine that the majority of people who either died or were injured in this particular incident come from Nongoma in KwaZulu-Natal. But also, he said the 5 suspects that the police are after are also coming from Nongoma. He really did not want to give much detail, fearing that will compromise the investigations. But I must indicate, Sally, that the minister said that it was clear that these people were here to kill, because the police, when they arrived here, as they were going through the crime scene, they found about 127 cartridges of AK-47 machine guns. So these are the people who were clear they were on a mission, according to Bekitele. But he's confident that they would be arrested. And he was also lamenting the fact that in this police precinct of Orlando, there were over 230 around there, shebins and taverns, which he says were more than the schools as well as the churches. Let's listen to the police minister.
It was such a brutality. Bathi baqoshe inhlamvu ecishe zibe 137 ze-AK ama-empty cartridges. I-AK ngayinye ifaka inhlamvu eziwu-30, okusho ukuthi bayifake beyiphindelela. Lo muntu bezele ukuzobhubhisa. Kuthiwa-ke bafike ngayo le khumba befikile. Kodwa-ke manje at least sesiyazi ukuthi abantu abebekuleya khumbi bebeyisihlanu, bebe-5. Ngizoma lapho-ke ngoba kukhona nokunye okusondelayo esesiqala ukukwazi ukuthi ingoba bekwenze njani, noma labo bantu bekuhluthuko kwenze njani. Sizoma lapho-ke kwamanje.
And of course, we shouldn't forget, Maloko, that in Katlehong this weekend, there was also a shooting at a tavern, and I believe it was a lone gunman who walked in and opened fire. 2 people dead there. Give us the latest that you have on that shooting, and whether the police minister has commented on whether whether they've been able to rule out as yet a link between the Nomzamo shooting, where 15 died, the shooting in Katlehong where 2 died, and the shooting that we're going to hear about from Pietermaritzburg in Sweetwaters where 3 people, if not 4 people, died. Tell us a little bit more about Katlehong.
Well, Sally, at least what we know is that a total of 21 people died in those 3 separate incidents. 15 here in Soweto, 4 in KwaZulu-Natal and 2 in Katlehong in Ekurhuleni. The minister was asked whether he believes, considering the fact that there's a statement that was issued by the Qatari government where they are essentially inferring or suggesting that possibly this could be a terror attack. So the minister is saying there's no way this can be a terror attack. And of course, we asked whether he believes this was coordinated perhaps by sane people. He's saying, look, investigations will reveal that. And up to so far, we know that there are no arrests, at least here. But as he's saying, he believes that they will be arrested. Lastly, Sally, he promised that there's going to be the police presence here. He gave about 5 vehicles that he says will be patrolling this area. But for the time that we have been here, I have not seen those police officers since the minister has left moving in. But of course, we're going to be here hoping that at a later point today, they will be moving in. Back to you, Sally.
Certainly keeping an eye on that as the Amaberete move in. Manqoba Mchunu, in KwaZulu-Natal, I want to bring you in now because, of course, you've been covering the shooting outside Pietermaritzburg in Sweetwaters, where 4 people were gunned down. What can you tell us about what happened also on the Saturday night, Sunday morning, and what police are saying about the investigation and the motive? Because I understand 2 people have been arrested.
Indeed, Sally, what we do understand is that this incident occurred around 8:30 in the evening on Saturday. And what we know so far, Sally, is that there was a VW Polo, a vehicle that had come to that particular tavern. And in fact, upon arrival, we understand that the 2 assailants inside that vehicle had then gone inside the tavern and randomly started shooting at the patrons that were there inside that particular tavern. And we do understand, of course, that after that, then they fled that particular scene. 2 of those victims died at the tavern, and we understand that 2 more also died in hospital. There are still 8 people that are receiving treatment in hospital. So in total, Sally, there were 12 people that were shot in that particular tavern. And of course, many of the community members are still shocked. They're still baffled about what happened in that particular place. They're saying that, it was something that they didn't expect could happen in their own neighborhood. But they're saying that this issue of a VW Polo that has been going around shooting people is a long-standing issue, Sally. They're saying that up until 2 months ago, there have been reports of vehicles that are going around shooting randomly at people. So it is an issue that has really sent shockwaves to this community. But in terms of the investigation, Sally, we do understand that there are 2 suspects that have been arrested. In fact, the Provincial Police Commissioner confirmed to us earlier on, saying that they did arrest 2 suspects. And from the information that we understand, Sally, these are the people that are believed to have been driving that VW Polo. We understand that one of the security companies had been following that car, had been trailing that car, but we don't know yet if it is the car indeed that was involved in this particular issue. But safe to say that there are 2 suspects that have been taken in for questioning. At this particular point, no charges have been formulated against them. But police also not at this particular point ruling out that there could be more arrests in this particular matter. But what they have ruled out, though, Sally, is that this could be part of a syndicate. In fact, I quizzed Provincial Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi just on this particular issue, whether they believe that this was part of a syndicate, and he made it quite clear, Sally, that this is not part of a syndicate. It is a crime that happened in that particular community, and this is what they are investigating. But of course, they're saying that there's also issues of negligence when it comes to security at that particular establishment. But take a listen to what he had to say to me earlier on.
Can talk about what happened since this morning, but as now, I cannot tell you how many have been taken to custody. There's 2 of them that have been taken to custody thus far. But we expect to get more that might be involved with this case.
Manqoba, in the wake of these shootings, government is talking tough on security at taverns. What's the Community Safety MEC saying to you?
Well, indeed, Sally, one of the things that the MEC said it needs to be looked at, of course, is the issue of security around taverns, because he says that it seems that taverns are becoming soft targets where criminals would go and carry out their criminal activities. In this particular instance, the motive is still unknown because nothing was taken from the scene. There was no items that were taken by these would-be shooters. But what we do understand is that they just opened fire at those people that are there. So he really questioned the security at that particular establishment, asking the owner really if there was security, as he claims that there is security at his establishment, then why didn't they do anything? Why could these people enter the premises with guns and shoot people in those premises? So there were really questions and calls perhaps for stricter and safer measures at taverns, for security to be tightened at taverns, and for everybody who really goes into them to be vetted and checked in terms of firearms and safety, to ensure that there is no other incidents like this that are reported, but also talking on issues of firearm control, saying that perhaps we need to relook some of the laws when it comes to how police respond and how people will usually respond when they are faced with the firearm. The fact that you cannot shoot a person that is facing or that is not carrying a weapon, but at the same time is perhaps a threat in a way to you. So those are some of the things that he touched on. But of course, one of the issues that he highlighted was this issue of negligence, the fact that he believes that the owner of the tavern himself had been negligent in the fact that even though he had cameras, but he could not guarantee the safety of the patrons that were there. Take a listen to what Jomo Sibia, the MEC, the acting MEC for Community Safety, had to say.
There was negligence. You've got a gate here. There is a gate. People came with a car in a gate. It was never searched. They parked their car inside the tavern. Nobody searched them. They came out of the car. Nobody searched them. They came inside the tavern. Nobody searched them. They killed people in the tavern. And then that is negligent. That is negligence. And it means as government, if we don't do anything, I said it earlier on, police can't be each and every tavern. These police were overburdening them, but also we are saying they must do their job, but we must also come into their space and protect them and allow them to do their work.
Yeah, and we've got 4 families mourning the death of those 4 people in Sweetwaters on Saturday night. You've spoken to some of them. What are they saying?
Well, so the families are still very distraught. In fact, many of them saying that they're still battling to come to terms with what had happened. And these are families that say they were called into the scene. They went to the scene, they saw their loved ones lying in a pool of blood. And many of them saying that they're still looking for answers. Of course, they're also not ruling out, the issues around security at that particular tavern, saying that, that also needs to be looked in. The owner of the tavern also needs to give answers when it comes to issues of security. But take a listen to what one of those relatives had to say to me earlier on.
Umnikazi wendawo le akwalimalela khona umfowethu uyena ufana sichazele ukuthi kwenzakalani ngoba phela for sure wayekhona lapho yena ufana sazisa njenganabantu bomndeni ukuthi kuze kufike lapho nje kwade kwenzekaleni yayilapha isecurity yakhona nama footage kangithi abanama camera kufanele sazi konke ayikho into esingafuni ukuyazi.
Yeah, 21 people dead in 3 separate tavern shootings this past weekend. Mangoba Mchunu in Sweetwater near Pietermaritzburg. Thank you very much for that update. The welcome news that at least 2 people have been arrested. Let's hope the perpetrators are swiftly brought into custody. And of course, Moloto in Soweto, in Nomzamo, where that shooting occurred, 15 people dead, awaiting the arrival of the tactical unit, the Amabarete, this evening. We're likely to speak to you later in the programme. Thanks very much to both of you for those updates.